Good morning. All right. Thank you for joining us this morning. Had a little technical issues, but we got those worked out. And so this morning we're going to be working through our health seminar along with our cooking class. And this morning we're going to have Dr. Nicholas and Dr. Court with us. Dr. Nicholas will be talking to us this morning. He is a naturopath, and he will be sharing with us some health tips, some things that to keep us healthy. Dr. Nicholas have an office here in the Northeast, 7715 Castor Avenue, and he'll be sharing that address with you and a phone number in case you need to reach out to him. And so this morning he's going to be sharing some things with us, and then we'll switch from Dr. Nicholas and we'll go to our cooking class so that the chef will be able to share some neat tips with you for the holidays. And then after that, Dr. Court will come and share with you, and then I'll give a little bit more briefing about Dr. Court right after the cooking class. She is a psychologist that will give us some nice tips to help us deal with our mental condition. Because all of us have been locked in so long, she'll be able to help us to work through those mental stress. But right now, we want to bring Dr. Nicholas. So Dr. Nicholas, if you would come, please.
Thank you, Pastor. God bless. Good morning, everyone. It's certainly commendable that the leadership here at Boulevard Church have taken the initiative to continuously educate the members on different things, practical steps they can take in boosting their health, whether it be through healthy meal preparation or just general information that is important and necessary for this time in this pandemic. The world is facing its biggest test. And there's a test of IQ. There's also a test of how we will effectively navigate this pandemic. We started a discussion yesterday in church on the benefits of pure air. And we also looked at the fact that breathing was the very first activity that was given to man. The very first activity that Adam received. In Genesis 2, verse 7, when God says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." So breathing is one of those autonomous functions, and by that I mean you have hardly any control over it. That means even if you're strong enough, if you want to commit suicide, for example, and you're strong enough to hold your breath until you pass out, the brain stem takes back control and causes you to be breathing again. The body is wonderfully made. That's how God designed it. We looked at the daily intake of air, and interestingly, we take 8 times the amount of air as we take food, which means that air quality should be of paramount importance to all of us as human beings, because the first food that was created when the atmosphere was created was air. And all the natural laws that govern how air interacts with all the other elements in the atmosphere was created when God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So air is very, very important. We take 36 pounds of air, 4 pounds of food, and about 6 pounds of water. So if we will not take contaminated food or contaminated water, we should pay attention to our indoor air quality. And later on, I'll do a particle test even in this auditorium, to see what the air quality is. Right? We will talk a little bit also about the modern convenience that God has given us in advanced science, developed almost 100 years ago by NASA, with NASA scientists, but is now in consumer products that can help to purify our indoor air and surfaces. And just recently, on the company's website, they've highlighted that the technology was tested successfully in an independent FDA-compliant laboratory to destroy the novel coronavirus. And I'll show the graphs later on. And let me just expound a little bit on what they try to do. So these scientists try to mimic what nature does. So nature constantly purifies the air, right? This is why when the carcass of a dead animal is out there and all the bacteria surrounds it, over time, the elements in the air, the sunlight and so forth, breaks down. The bacteria that is in it also breaks down that carcass. And when that is completely dissipated, if you walk by that area, you may not be exposed to viruses or bacteria because it is constantly purified. Now, what these scientists try to do, for example, when the astronauts go out into outer space, they cannot open a window to take fresh air. So it means that when they sneeze and when they pass wind and when they burp and when their bacteria is in the International Space Station, how does it get cleaned? After all, they're human beings and they belong on the earth, right? So how does it get cleaned? So they try to mimic nature. And in trying to mimic nature, they try to ensure that the purification device generates these charged particles that actually helps to purify the air. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Now, the Environmental Protection Agency has long highlighted that indoor air quality can be 200% to 500% worse than the outdoor air quality. Because, of course, buildings will trap stale air, right? For example, even in here in this auditorium, we need more ventilation in order to ensure that the air quality is healthy if we're going to spend extended time in here. In even more newer energy-efficient buildings, it has been reported that the air quality inside is up to 100 times worse than the air quality outside. Now, if the air is stale inside, you can imagine some of the deleterious effects that may exist and that may affect the health of the occupants of that space. The risk of contracting the coronavirus is far higher in indoor spaces than outdoors. Far higher. What are some of the benefits of breathing natural, pure, fresh air? One of the first one is that it purifies the blood. God didn't make a mistake when he ensured that we take far more air each day than we take food or water. So we can live without food for about 7 or 8 days. We can live without water for almost 2 weeks. How long do you think we can live without fresh air or oxygen? About 4 to 5 minutes. 4 to 5 minutes, right? So air is a more important food, as we have seen, than anything else. It strengthens the heart. We accept that the heart is a pump, but science have taught that the heart is more than just a pump of blood. The heart controls what is considered biophotonic switches that keeps the nervous system in action and keep us healthy, keep us strong. So oxygen from fresh air actually enhances the heart function and heart rhythm. It quickens the circulation of the blood. We know now that cancers and other diseases cannot survive in a properly oxygenated body. In fact, I know Dr. Court will speak on our mental health later on, but research has also showed that certain psychosomatic disorders like depression can also be characterized by low oxygen to the brain, the frontal lobe, low blood flow and low oxygen. So fresh air is important at even keeping our mental health in balance. It distributes highly oxygenated, vitalizing blood throughout the body. Fresh air does that. It increases vitality and restful sleep. If you work out, if you exercise, and you don't breathe well, your exercise regimen can be cut short because you're not filling the bloodstream with oxygen. When the bloodstream is filled with oxygen, exercise tolerance is much higher. Muscle strength is also improved just by breathing properly. Breathe through your nostrils, not through your mouth. Right? Don't take your deep breath. Use your nostrils. And that will strengthen the lungs. It establishes immunity from disease. And as Dr. Frank Scholl in his book Vital Necessity of Air, he said proper breathing not only improves one's health, but also mental powers and clear-sightedness. It enables one to have control over the passions and ensures immunity from disease just by taking fresh air. We looked at this yesterday. It's a very simplistic view of a very powerful chemical warfare that takes place in our bodies every second of every day to keep us alive. Invading pathogens and bacteria, viruses are always making their attack. And in some cases, they are having a symbiotic relationship with our bodies, which means that some of them reside within our bodies but are controlled by our immune system. So this chemical warfare is called phagocytosis. And it just includes the white blood cells tracking down pathogens, binding to them, pulling them in to itself, and releasing special chemicals like hydrogen peroxide to neutralize those pathogens, those, whether it be bacteria, virus, whatever it may be. A healthy immune system can mount a challenge to any pathogen. Now, the takeaway from that statement should be that how do I optimize and keep my immune system optimized? That should be it, right? Because a healthy immune system is also required after you get the vaccine or after you use any drug or even any herb. A healthy immune system must mount a challenge even to the small amount of the viruses or bacteria that is in the vaccines. And if your immune system cannot mount a challenge, you're in trouble. Okay? You're in trouble. So the immune system must be able to mount a challenge. We have trillions of white blood cells that are on active duty every day. Right? And what are the things that weakens white blood cell activity? Polluted air can also. Sugar also weakens white blood cell activity. We looked at this briefly yesterday. And we spoke of the fact that if you're consuming more than 6 teaspoons of sugar, and I soon get back into air, but if you're consuming more than 6 teaspoons of sugar, which is about the amount that the kidneys can handle in a day, you are robbing your body of vital defense, and you're weakening the trusted soldiers who are always on active duty, wanting to protect you from invading pathogens. So I mentioned yesterday that if you're afraid of coronavirus, you should be afraid of sugar. It doesn't make sense. If you're afraid of coronavirus, and science have long identified that sugar weakens the military might that exists in the body, you should be afraid of sugar. Right? We're going into the festive season, and I know that many will still flout the laws, and the families will get together, and they will try to consume what they normally consume. But the advice is to limit the sugar. What this screen is showing us is that at 0 teaspoons of sugar in a day, your one white blood cell has the powerful capacity to track down and destroy 14 bacteria before he's neutralized by the spleen after he's done his lifetime. At 6 teaspoons of sugar, that capacity drops by about 25%. But when you reach to 12 teaspoons of sugar, you're more than 60% in drop or depletion of your immune system's capacity to track down and destroy pathogens. 12 teaspoons of sugar is about how much is in a can of soda. So I wouldn't drink soda if I were God's people. Right? Sugary drinks also, because you're now being sold fruit drinks which are anything but fruit drinks. It's laden with sugar, artificial flavors, artificial colors, but it's called fruit drink. That also is deleterious to even the brain, because sugar is neurotoxic if you take too much. And too much sugar can actually predict high triglycerides and heart disease. And there is nothing that robs calcium from the bones more than excess sugar. I strayed a little bit from here, but it has to be emphasized because we're going to be talking about how do we practically protect and defend ourselves in a pandemic, right? So when you get to 24 teaspoons of sugar, it's a 1-to-1 relationship. So by then, bacteria, viruses, mold are beating your immune system. So by the time your one white blood cell is done with one bacteria, he's ready to die. So he's saying, spleen, take me back and destroy me. He has no more energy because too much sugar is in the blood. We cannot afford that. So we mentioned that, yes, a question is coming from the floor. There's a good question. If you don't take sugar but you take honey, is there a difference between the two? Honey is also a simple sugar, but honey definitely is better than the crystalline acid extracted from the sugarcane that we call sugar. Honey still retains some enzymes and a few vitamins, so honey is still better. But in the book of Proverbs, I think 25 verse 27 or 27 verse 25, we were advised not to take much honey, right? So honey rapidly absorbs and can have a very high glycemic effect, which means it raises the blood sugar level very quickly and causes stress on the pancreas. I hope that answers the question. All right, so let's get back into air. We spoke a little bit about hydrogen peroxide being one of the powerful chemicals in the phagocytosis process, right, where your cells track down and destroy bacteria and viruses. Hydrogen peroxide is also created in the atmosphere. These are, in God's atmosphere, supercharged particles are created. So, Doc, when we're riding outside, we shouldn't ride with a mask if we're riding alone, or even with 1 or 2 people, because the fresh air is constantly purified. And it is not really true that we have particles suspended for long hours at a time. Because we've learned in chemistry that anything that has a weight more than air gets pulled to the ground by gravity. Right? Gets pulled to the ground by gravity. And hydrogen peroxide is one of those elements that is created when light interacts with the hydrogen and oxygen molecules that are in the air. And it is, according to Fruton and Simmons in their book General Biochemistry, microorganisms that possess an electrical charge when found in liquid. Liquid is like droplets, right? When we sneeze or when we cough, and those droplets are airborne for a short time. Hydrogen peroxide takes electrons away from the germs and the viruses and kills them. So they require all the electrons to function effectively. Just this one supercharged particles, one out of several, is enough to destroy these viruses and pathogens. But God didn't just give us one, He gave us many, because just in case anything passes, the air has to constantly be purified. So there is more and more supercharged particles. Hydroxyls is another one. So we have now these ion generators that are sold for air purification, and they are in some of the new air conditioning systems, and they are used to purify the air. What they do is blast hydroxyls into the air. So hydroxyls is the pure oxygen molecule, right? It is devoid of hydrogen. So the hydrogen is split away, and unseen to our eyes, the oxygen molecule is doing its work, purifying the air. Hydroxyl radical is also another one, right? And these are selectively toxic to what is inimical to our health, not good for our health, right? That's by God's design. Superoxides, this is when the hydrogen molecule interacts with the hydrogen molecule interacts with the oxygen molecule and light again, which is a specific wavelength, and I won't get into wavelengths because it goes too scientific, right? So it's a specific ultraviolet light wavelength, which is not visible to the naked eye, but that is how God designed it. These create the superoxides, and superoxides are scavengers for anything that is in even mold that you cannot see, even if it exists in the ventilation system. Once the atmosphere is filled with superoxides, the mold and bacteria and viruses that we cannot see gets neutralized, gets destroyed. Ozone is another one. But ozone can be dangerous over a certain level. God knew this, right? Because He's the one who created it. What did He do? The superoxides, by their activity, interacts with ozone with its 3 molecules. The ozone is 3 molecules of oxygen. And the superoxide reduces the impact of ozone by reducing the ozone in the atmosphere. Right? So God didn't leave us orphans at all. So it's good that we also understand how the atmosphere works, because mainstream media is not teaching you. They're keeping you fearful. And there's a reason for that. Your best guess is as good as mine. But it's important that God's people are aware of how things work and what exists to actually create an additional layer of protection, even to your indoor spaces. The FDA has also indicated through regulations, they have stated that mouthwash should contain hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is very, very inexpensive, and it's a better mouthwash than some of the antiseptic expensive mouthwash, which actually it allows even your mouth to retain some good bacteria, and it doesn't destroy the microbiome in the mouth or in the gut, whereas the antiseptic mouthwash does, and actually reduces the nitric oxide production, which is our youth molecule. So we want to be very careful of even the expensive antiseptic mouthwash. Get the natural stuff. Hydrogen peroxide, 3% diluted, is a better mouthwash than some of these expensive antiseptic mouthwash. All right, let's carry on. The composition of the air. Okay, another question from the floor. Yes, Elder. There is food-grade hydrogen peroxide, and there is non-food grade hydrogen peroxide. So you have to make sure that you get the right one if you're going to use it. There are some natural therapies, especially dealing with cancers and other oxygen-starved condition, where food-grade hydrogen peroxide is used because, again, it contributes two molecules of oxygen, 2 molecules of hydrogen, and is very powerful against pathogens. Is not the food grade. Yeah. That's the one that can be used for the mouthwash, but don't swallow it. Yes. The composition of the air. Nitrogen, 78%. Oxygen, 21%. So the good oxygen, which in chemistry is considered the life giver, we know it's not the life giver, right? We know what the life giver is, our God. But in chemistry, oxygen is classified as the life giver. He's only 21%. Too much oxygen can burn. That's why 3 molecules of oxygen is deadly in ozone. The EPA considers ozone in the atmosphere above 0.07 parts per million of air that we breathe dangerous to the lungs. Right? So this is why ozone generators must meet certain specific standards. And in places like California, it has to be below 0.05 parts per million. So if you're buying an ozone generator, when you turn that on, you have to leave the room, and it has to auto shut off, and the room has to remain vacant for a while. Right? So oxygen can kill. So it has to be carefully managed. God had set everything in working, everything in order, so that oxygen and its activity would be restrained by more nitrogen in the atmosphere. So nitrogen is considered the restrainer. And what does it restrain? Scientists think it's oxygen. Argon, 0.9%, carbon dioxide, 0.03%. I really just came up on this because I always learned that carbon dioxide was 1%, the extra 1%. So that made up the 100% of the elements in the atmosphere. In micro amounts, smaller amounts, you have hydrogen, ozone, which are created, methane gases, carbon monoxide, which are created by human and animal activity, helium, neon, krypton, xenon. What are some of the chronic effects of even moderate air poisoning? The chronic effects of long continued breathing an air which is but moderately polluted are seen in a general deterioration of the strength, the appetite and digestion, a pallid dyspeptic appearance from want of renewal of blood. Dr. G. Frank Scholl, MD, wrote that many, many years ago. Science today have identified that corrupted air, polluted air, can lead to irritability and fatigue, anxiety and depression. It can also lead to low oxygen uptake by the blood, which is very dangerous, and that can kickstart disease processes. Impaired memory and cognition. So if we want our children to learn well, sometimes we have to incorporate more outdoors into their learning, or ensure that there is ventilation. Exercise intolerance and even muscle weakness can be some of the issues that comes out from impure air. All right. Let's go talk about a little bit about, and I want to bring up another file, brother. Some additional info is on it. So we'll talk a little bit about the active pure technology, which is space technology developed by NASA scientists years ago. Years ago, and they developed this. It's being used in the International Space Station, out of space, to protect the astronauts. And if it's good for astronauts, it must be good for us, right? It's the same. Thanks. It is also the same technology that is used in the Pentagon to clean the air after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And it is available to us. Now, I went to a medical conference last year, and I saw this technology. When the pandemic hit earlier this year, I decided to make contact with the company to see if I can get one for my practice, because being self-employed, if I don't go out, I don't know how my family would survive. And that's a risk that small business people are under when you have a lockdown, because the government cannot take care of you, and will not, actually. So I had to take practical steps as to how I protect myself, my family, my clients. So I reached out to the company and got even more information from them. And luckily, with pushing them, we were able to become distributors of the product too, right? But interestingly, when I go on the distributor training each month, I'm the only dark skin in the training. I don't have to say anything else. So we don't want to be left behind, so we better learn quickly. And I must say that I believe it has done very well, because the technology, all the elements that I spoke about, except ozone, are created or generated in the indoor spaces of our offices and at home. And it creates an additional layer of protection for the indoor air. God's people should be aware of the modern conveniences and technology that exist to protect us also. Amen? Just recently, in September, the company highlighted that testing was done at MRI Global, which is an independent FDA-compliant laboratory, on live COVID strains in covered Petri dish. That means it wasn't exposed, because they didn't want it to be floating around in the lab. And the results are that after 3 hours, the surface kill rate was 93.27%. And this is of the live strain of the novel coronavirus. After 6 hours, 97.95% reduction. And after 7 hours, 99.98% reduction. Prior to that, they had results showing that, is this machine on the internet? It's not? I wish it were. They had results showing that MRSA, which is a deadly antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which is resident in many hospitals, it destroys MRSA within half an hour. Other RNA and DNA viruses are also destroyed, and the coronavirus, the flu virus, are RNA viruses. All that means is that the genome structure is single strand, where DNA has a double strand structure. RNA viruses or bacteria or mold can change their form in terms of behavior. And that's what makes it difficult to predict whether a flu vaccine will really work. It is also one of the challenges that researchers are working through in even their coronavirus vaccines, because it has never been done before. DNA viruses can be more predictable, so you can create drugs and vaccines very easily for those. So, protecting the indoor air, improving the indoor air is important if we would survive the 21st century, for this 21st century. Yeah. I had another file on my machine that would show some of the results that they've gotten, but mold, bacteria, dust mites, allergens, pollens, dust, and those things are reduced in the atmosphere. I only have 2 minutes left, right? Are reduced in the atmosphere by this technology. So the Active Pure technology is now available to consumers, and if you want to know more about it, you can contact myself. You can go to the website, nutriversenaturalwellness.com, and you can learn more about the product. You can download the brochures and digest the information on this that is available. It's not sold online. These products are not sold online. The company wanted to ensure, the manufacturer and patent owner wanted to ensure that you get a little information so you understand what you're buying. So you understand exactly what you're buying and how the technology works. So they expect that their distributors and their franchise holders will educate their clients before they sell them. Of course, we have folks who just go on the website, call and say, well, I don't need any more education, just invoice me and send the thing come. Right? But it's important that we understand that this exists. I'm going to take 5 minutes quickly and get into some practical ways you can actually protect yourself and your family. Looking at this screen gives a very interesting vitamin-mineral interaction. And the doctor for the 21st century will try to understand this kind of interaction, because when the body is crying out, when it gets sick, it's not asking for drugs. It's asking for a rebalancing of those minerals and vitamins which are natural. It's asking that we reduce toxemia, which is about the only disease. It's asking that we restore flavonoids and good quality protein, and not just the protein that is stimulating to our taste buds. It's asking us to restore optimal functioning. For example, we would have young people who are iron deficient all their lives and is being prescribed iron every time they go in. But new research is also showing that iron deficiency doesn't mean that iron doesn't exist in the body. Iron exists in the tissues, but copper and possibly vitamin A is deficient because they liberate iron from the tissues. And then iron can go to do its work. And the work that iron does is to take oxygen to all over the body and take carbon dioxide back to the lung to be excreted or exhaled. Right? That's just one function. I started putting something together here on things that you can consider. This is what I do, and the slide wasn't really finished, but I'll talk through it. What are you doing at home to boost your natural immunity? Do you believe that the body is sufficient to mount an effective challenge against the novel coronavirus or any other viruses or pathogens? The simple answer is yes, if you believe we were fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And if you believe that the natural laws of science and health are governed by God. Multivitamin, multimineral, food grade, a liquid one, is a good addition to your daily diet. So add a good liquid multivitamin to your diet. The minerals like zinc, selenium, magnesium, and copper are very, very powerful in helping to boost natural immunity. Zinc, for example, prevents viruses from binding to your cells. Selenium, along with vitamin E, helps to boost antibody production naturally. Right? Helps to boost antibody production. Vitamin A is very powerful antioxidant also. Vitamin C, we know, is one of the resident antioxidants. It helps with vision acuity. It helps with antioxidant protection. Vitamin C even helps with pain management. It helps with the common cold. Right? Vitamin D. New research out of the Boston University School of Medicine have highlighted that vitamin D, when they evaluate 190,000 blood samples from the Quest laboratories, they found that those with higher vitamin D levels had far less coronavirus positivity. And they concluded, after that research, that vitamin D by itself reduces your risk of coronavirus infections by 54%. Now, of course, the virologists and the media is telling that, well, when the flu season starts, everybody's risk will be increased and they're expecting big numbers and so forth. But it is actually an indictment because they are not teaching. They are telling you what to expect, but they're not teaching, which tells you skullduggery must exist. But vitamin D is very helpful. Just last week, another research came out in Yahoo News that melatonin, what is melatonin? Melatonin is that hormone that is created when you rest well. Can reduce your coronavirus infection risk by 30%. You see, it's all coming back to God's natural laws of health. It's all coming back, right? And we shouldn't believe that man has the answer, because it is expected that even the best vaccine will have a 10% adverse reaction rate. Now, everyone will want to believe that they're in the 90%. Good luck. But we should take steps to naturally optimize our immunity. Rest well, exercise, get your vitamin D, eat well, avoid sugary foods and drinks and pastries as much as you can. Don't reward your kids with sweetie and chocolates. For the children, I give my children bee pollens as their natural multivitamin, and they like it. They get liquid multivitamin also. One of the things we do, well, the kids don't do this, they scream. We do hot and cold baths each morning. That's one of the best ways to activate white blood cell activity. You feel like $1 million and you'll never be cold. If you're always cold during the days, hot and cold baths will take that away. And it will activate white blood cell activity and send your trusty workmen who are on active duty to work. those who can afford it, full spectrum infrared saunas are also very good. When you create an artificial fever, you create a thermal environment, and viruses, bacteria, mold, and so forth cannot survive when you do that sauna treatment. Raising the body temperature and then allowing it to come down gradually is a very effective way to actually prevent or destroy pathogens. Garlic supplements. Garlic supplements. We take garlic for granted sometimes because it's so readily available. But researchers have identified that garlic is the one herb that by itself has the widest spectrum. So it is antibiotic, it is antiviral, it is antihistamine, it is antibacterial, it is powerful, hypoallergenic. So enjoy your garlic supplements. That's where I'll stop for now, but I'll just leave on the screen. There's a little flu bomb that you can make at home. And the viruses and bacteria hardly stand a chance when you introduce this flu bomb, natural flu bomb, to the body. And you don't have to overdo it. Up to 3 times a day for 3 days max is good enough. That's where I'll stop for now, and I want to thank you for being an attentive audience, and I hope God will bless your efforts as you incorporate these lifestyle adjustments as we try to ward off or even recover from the viruses and pathogens that are with us. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Dr. Nicholas for that wonderful presentation on air and the fact of knowing about this flu bomb and all the other wonderful information that he has shared with us. And hopefully Dr. Nicholas shared with you how to make contact with him if you desire to do so. And if not, we will make sure that we present that information to you. Right now, we want to take a 2-minute break, and we're going to shift you to the cooking class, and then we will come right back. Thank you so much.
It's still up.
This is how I'm supposed to look. That's it.
Keep rising.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, not yet. But I needed to keep the same lane with that change. Yes. So we need to move some of this stuff out of the way. Right. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
One more time.
Testing, I can hear it. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Everybody in the kitchen hear that?
I can hear you.
Okay.
All right, if you folks don't want to be on camera, you can stand back here. Over there, you're on camera.
You have the camera behind you.
I'm trying to move this stuff out. Yeah. And we're gonna put a like grape tomato in there. No, I have to figure out what is what. This is something. Oh. Huh? What?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, this is another thing that needs to be put together.
All
Put
right.
some
Thank
parsley
you.
on top of these.
Thank you
Fill
so
these
much
up full of
for
water.
staying by with us. And so we want to move to the cooking class portion now. And we're going to ask Ms. Jonetta Frazier to talk to us about the things that
gosh, is my
she
hair
has
up?
prepared and how we can have a wonderful,
Here.
healthy Thanksgiving meal or holiday meal, or for any time you choose to have a healthy meal for your family. If you were with us earlier, you heard about how Dr. Nicholas told us not only the air is good, but we want to make sure that we eat healthy so that we may stay healthy. And so we're going to ask Ms. Frazier now to come and talk to us about these wonderful dishes that she has prepared so
Just
that we can
parsley.
understand the things that she shared with us. All
Okay.
right? So, Ms. Frazier, thank you for being with us today and presenting to us.
Thank you
And,
for inviting.
it's all right. You
Thank
are
you for
welcome.
inviting.
All
Need
right,
to turn it down?
we'll turn it down a little
Thank you
bit.
very much.
And we will turn it over to you so you can talk directly to your audience. All right?
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. You could be doing many other things right now, but I am so happy that you have decided to come this afternoon and spend a little time with me to learn about healthy meals. All right. So, excuse me. I have a little helper over there. Can you hand me a spoon or something? I need to mix. Okay, so there's several dishes that we're going to make today, and one is called a lentil loaf. How many people love lentils? Big, big. How many people like lentils? Just one? Oh, thank you, thank you. I was getting scared there. I was like, okay, I guess I'll be taking this dish home all for me to eat all by myself. All right, so I've cooked some lentils. Basically, what I have is it's like 1 cup of lentils to 2.5 cups of water, and that's what I cooked. So if you don't want to use water, you can also use vegetable broth. I've already cooked them. All right. So what I'm going to do is 3/4 of the lentils I'm going to mash. So you can either mash them, and you cook these for about 45 minutes, which is typically a little longer than you cook lentils because they're typically ready in about 30 minutes. But I cook them longer so that they're easier to mash. I don't know if everybody can see. And so here I am, I'm mashing the lentils. And you see how easy they are to mash once you cook them a little longer. After you cook them, you want to sit them on the stove so they can cool down a bit. And so I've mashed most of them. And there are other ingredients that we're also going to use in this recipe. And they include oat flour. So guess what? I do not buy oat flour. I just use regular old-fashioned oats, and I put them in my Vitamix or your blender or your food processor, and you have oat flour, okay? So please don't spend money buying oat flour that's outrageous when you can make your own, all right? And so it also requires for me to use regular oats, which I have here. So typically when a person makes a loaf, what you do is you use eggs a lot of time as a binder. So does anybody know in the audience what can be used as a binder? Oh my gosh. Maybe I don't need to be teaching this class today. They're very smart. All right. So I have some flaxseed here, and I'm going to put my flaxseed in some water. And I'm just going to mix that up, and I'm going to let it sit there for a minute or two. And the only other thing that I have here are some seasonings. So some seasonings that I decided to use is I use 21 Salute because it doesn't have any salt in it. I use a little bit of chicken style seasoning, the vegan. What else? I also have some cumin in here. I have some coriander in here. Sounds good, doesn't it? I know. I have, oops, my mask is drifting up. I have onion powder and garlic powder. So can everybody hear me? Or since people are social distancing, I can pull it down. Okay. All right. All right. I'll put it right here. So I think that's a little better, don't you? Uh-oh. Oh, say something? Okay. Okay, sure, I can tell you the amount of seasoning. Guess what? If you email me or I can give you my little pamphlet of recipes for the holiday. So I think those are backwards. So everybody that's in the listening audience today will get a copy. It's about 6 pages that you can use. So you asked about the loaf, and I'll tell you exactly what I put in there. So as I said before, I used a cup of lentils. I used 2 cups of water. For flaxseed, it's equivalent to 3 eggs. So it's 3 tablespoons of flaxseed that I used with, I used a 1/4 cup of water. And so in terms of oat flour, I have a 1/2 cup of oat flour and 3/4 cups of oats. All right. So as I said, if anybody needs any of the recipes, I can send them to you. So remember, I mashed 3/4 of the lentils, and these are the ones I left whole. I'm walking over to the stove because I sauteed some vegetables. So what I sauteed, I have a whole onion, um, celery, pepper, and of course garlic and carrots. And all those were sauteed in a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to add that. So this recipe is so easy. After I do that, what I'm going to add is my oats, my oat flour, okay, and my seasoning. And then you see this is thickened up. It's like a little foamy. Okay, these are my flax eggs. Yes. Super easy, right? Do we have an extra loaf pan? So the lentils have been sitting for a little while, so it's taking me a few more minutes to stir than than I typically does. Usually, okay. So, yeah, I guess so. So typically what you want to do is you want to put this in a loaf pan. But, can you hear me, a pair of gloves? But it seems as though there's not a loaf pan. I thought I had small hands, but these gloves must be extra small. Little struggle, little struggle, little struggle, little struggle. All right, so I'm going to oil this. So you can either use olive oil or nonstick spray. Right. So I think I have everything in the loaf pan. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put a little glaze on top before we bake it. So you can use organic barbecue sauce, or you can make up some. What I actually used is a little bit of tomato paste, and then I added a little water to it to thin it out because it's thick. I used a little bit of lemon juice, and I used a tablespoon of maple syrup. Okay? I guess I wrapped these containers tighter than I needed to. I just didn't want anything to spill during my transit here. So you just go like this. It's pretty thick. So I'm just going to use my hands since I have my gloves on. And then you put it in the oven, 350, 375 for about an hour, and it's done. And I'll show you what the final product should look like. No, but you're going to take that one out for me. So, okay, so here's your loaf. All right. So, of course, you know I'm going to garnish everything before I set it out because I tell people that we eat with our eyes. So if something doesn't look appealing, we typically aren't anxious to eat it, correct? So, of course, I'm going to garnish this up for you before we eat. And I'm putting all this here, and I'm going to move this down. Sorry. Should be. Do we have any more spoons? Give me all the spoons you have. All right. So let me show you some other things that you can make for your holiday. So when I'm talking about the holiday, I'm talking about from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's. All right. So we have something in the oven right here. Yeah. Can you? And you can bring me one of those on the tray too. All right. So when you were growing up, what did you typically eat for Thanksgiving? Turkey, right? Turkey. So I have made, I call it my tofu turkey roast. Okay. And since I'm going to show it to you, I think I'm going to garnish it right now. Wow, it's hot. It is hot. I'm going to have to do it this way. No kale for you? This is my garnish. All right. I'm going to throw a couple of cranberries on there. And I'm going to add some roasted vegetables once they come out of the oven. So how do you like that? All right. I made so much, I'm trying to figure out where I should go next. So I think I'll show them one of these. Yes. Come here. Oh, you didn't put more in the middle. All right. So I have something else for you. This is squash season. So if you want something that just takes a few minutes or not as long to make, what I did is I stuffed the squash, okay? And I stuffed it with like a rice pilaf. So what's in my rice is I use brown basmati rice, and I have celery, onions, garlic, carrots, dried cranberries, fresh cranberries, and chickpeas for your protein. The shell, butternut squash. Okay. The squash is baked, yes. Peeled it, and I just used the bottom part. So you can also use acorn squash as well. Yes, yes, yes. So I just showed you 3 entrees that you could possibly have for the holiday. Now, you always need to have a salad, correct? For the holiday? So we are going to make a kale ward-off salad. A kale ward-off salad. So we already have our fresh kale. I think I need to take a little out of the bowl. So with a typical ward-off salad, what do we have? We have apples, right? And we have celery. Super simple, easy salad. And to that, do you see the carrots over there? Carrots. Yes? No? Okay. Maybe they're in your refrigerator? All right, so. No, they're peeled. They're shredded. Oh, I'm looking for my things. Cranberries, walnuts. All right. What I did is I actually made my salad dressing. Um, so lots of times I make my own mayo, and I just make my own mayo using soy milk, or I can make my own mayo using tofu, one or the other. To this one, I put a little bit of turmeric in there, so that's why it has that like light yellow color. Fridge, the fridge. And you know what the key thing is to kale? Anybody know? Yep. You want to use a lemon. You definitely want to use a lemon. And can I have a knife? A knife. And while she's getting me a knife, you know what makes the kale soft? The lemon juice. And what do we need to do to this lemon? I mean, to this kale. That's my word. That is my word. Yes. That's exactly what you need to do. You need to massage it. That's what makes it tender. I should have cupped my hand underneath because a couple of seeds fell in, but I got them out. I don't need anybody to choke. I don't want to have to perform the Heimlich maneuver today. That is so true. Okay. And you don't massage gently. You really get down into it. You really do. So anything acidic will break down the kale. All right. It's almost done. Now, again, this is a twist to your typical water salad. Okay, we're adding some greens, right? And greens are high in what? See, you got the doctor right next to you, giving you all the answers. All right, it's looking pretty good. The only thing I think I'm going to add to this, and I will find them in a few minutes, will be some carrots. I'm a person who loves color. I love color. So this looks pretty, but I think the carrots will just give it that extra punch. All right? So there's your kale salad. Ah, thank you very much. So we thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow, that did it. I like the look now. Yes, right. Right? So, you have to have vegetables, right? We did our salad, we have our entree. We have 4 ovens full of roasted vegetables. All right? 4 ovens. We have vegetables such as broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, peppers, eggplant. Almost every vegetable you can think is on the tray. All right? So I guess we're doing this like a little bit backwards. So typically when people come in, you want to have some appetizers. Okay, I made some sweet potato hummus. Okay, and we have some sweet potato chips and pita wedges. Here, I have tofu egg salad, and I just garnished that with a little dill. Okay, next, I roasted some potatoes, and they were sliced. On top of that, I have spinach and arugula, topped with bruschetta, topped with vegan Parmesan cheese. Okay, so I just made like little mini cups so people don't have to worry about getting a dip. So I put the dip at the bottom that I made, and you just put the vegetables and they just can take it right out of their little cup or container. Good idea? Good idea? All right. I made some, you can't have a holiday without cranberry sauce, right? So I made my own cranberry sauce, of course. And this is made with fresh apples, oranges, there's some ginger and some cinnamon in there, and our cranberries. Okay? Fresh cranberry sauce, uncooked. Then I made a cranberry compote. And let me show you what I'm going to do with this. I had some, let me try to move some of the stuff out the way. I guess I'll just move down. Take this. You have another spoon? Did you see the white cream in the refrigerator? The white cream? Ready for you to come back to taste? Is there a cream? Do you see in another container that the cream was in? Do you see it? Okay, so I want to show you something that you can use. Is it in the refrigerator? It's a container that, it's a 16-ounce container that had white cream in it. Nope. It disappeared? Yes. Thank you. So I made a cream. And so you can either make a cream yourself, and this one's made out of tofu, or you can use coconut yogurt. Doesn't make a difference. But what we're going to do is we're going to do somewhat of a layered effect. The bottom, my cream. And then on top of that, thank you, berries. Add some more cream on top. Made some granola. Some cream. All right. So I'll be making a few more of those. Oh, what else do I have left? Oh, in the freezer. There's something in the freezer. We have a spiced apple cake. Because I know everybody loves a dessert, right? How do I make that? I use fresh apples. I cook the fresh apples, and I use spelt flour and unbleached flour and mix the two together. I use sucanat. I use ginger, cinnamon, baking powder, salt, a little bit of vanilla. That's it. And finally, super easy, no cook. These are my carob bite balls. They're made with dates. Dates, carob, almond flour, and coconut flour. That's it. All right? So what you could do is you could either roll these in nuts at the end or roll them in coconut if you want to, or sprinkle a little extra carob powder on top, whatever you want to do to garnish it. All right. So I think I've shown you everything.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is awesome. Wow, it looks wonderful. And for those of you who are not here presently with us, we will let you know how well it tastes, all righty? But we will do a little taste testing. And if you give us about 5 minutes, we're going to shift over to Dr. Court because we want to bring you some more healthy tips for the holidays. And so thank you so much, and we'll see you in about 5 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to do some taste testing. Thank you. Dr. Court, when you're ready, I'll get you set up.
Okay, great. First things first.
Not yet, because if you do, we won't have anything on the screen. Oh, I came over there. Everybody comes, yeah.
You letting them see the folks eat?
Yeah.
You making them jealous.
Enjoy it.
To make that tender. It's not felt once you, not side. So, now watch this. When you walk out the line,
Okay, doctor and doctor.
We're not gonna let us hear you.
Doctor and doctor.
Yes.
I know you're not related or married, but I know you're not.
I got some young people who want to come in and sample, okay?
You sure you want to sample? No kidding, I'm kidding. Okay, so, like it?
Yes, excited. How do you want to do this here?
Anybody think? Doctor? Okay, better, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody want to try this?
Hello, everyone. Come on.
And there's another sister who lives in Florida. She's a teacher. Is that you online? Very simple, with the absence of sugar, not too much oil. It would take some folks a while to adapt to this because they're used to all this heavy seasoning, you know. But the body can adapt. If you go for it, then the body will forget what's wrong. Yeah. 21 days, the body forgets it already. The body always remember what you did yesterday. It's true. It's true. The body remembers what you just did yesterday. It says, try this thing again. But if you, that's why the Bible says, deny self. If you deny, then it learns to go the other way. Yeah. So we call it going out. So we'll do this, and then we will take all the way to that. So we'll continue.
Take care.
Now I tend to take this thing, go by pouring out, inviting the young people like that, because they're seeing, you know, this is as this would have, some louder, and become more popular, you know. We had a few more jackets, we bought some jackets, some pants that we gave us. And they took it all away. People come and say, let's take the clothes and try it on the table. So we'll increase that with a little sandwich, you know, gradually, go with something. And so on, and we have to go. So we have to have something.
Sister Camille, when you said, Sister Dama, among the
Irish from life. Was the first one. But I have some more clothes there. I have the members from those system malls that they have some clothes in the clinic. You will give it to me. I want a little rack, a clothes rack. I don't want to sit down, I can break it down and put it together again and hang the clothes on there. And then come and they look at it.
Good job.
I plan to do that when I go to St. Lucia. When I visit St. Lucia, on my vacation. What we start to do is start preaching a little bit. We got a better spot. Because when we went to the spot where you come on Frankfurt, there was a police jeep there, and we drove up, and we were setting up the police station. We can set up there the doors properly. So we said, okay, well, you tell us that for lower down by Iron Station, and you see what I'm saying? Rather than more people passing direct from the train.
Yeah, really, a lot of people take the walk from there.
Yeah. Like Frankfurt Station, we're not catching those who come from the train because they go this way, and we go all the way on the side. But this spot is better than the last one. I was with them this morning at 6 o'clock. This disposable, we throw that away or you keep it? I think it's always sick.
He comes to church here or no?
I haven't seen that. I haven't been sure yet. Always every night.
All right, let me say good afternoon to you. Thank you for staying by with us. Just want to let you know that the food tasting went very well. Everything tastes wonderful. And so we hope that you will reach out and get those recipes so that you can enjoy them. And now we want to introduce to you Dr. Maureen Court. And we're going to get her hooked up with a microphone and so that she can be ready to present to you. And what she wants to share with you this afternoon, she wants to share with you some mental health tips, how you can deal with things during this holiday and during this time when we are locked in at home. And so how you want to be able to enjoy this holiday and be able to cope mentally with those things. And so with that said, we want to turn the time over to Dr. Court at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pastor Goodwin. And I would like to, first of all, thank Pastor Goodwin of Boulevard Seventh-day Adventist Church and his wife, Sister Belinda Goodwin, for offering me this opportunity to present information to the saints of God about Thanksgiving and mental health. Now, Thanksgiving is a tradition for American families, but something happened this year where we are hearing that the experts are suggesting that Thanksgiving should be canceled. Some of the reasons that led to this is the current COVID pandemic. But even if we have to cancel Thanksgiving, I'm going to make a presentation to you to show you that sometimes we can go ahead and have our festivities and our celebrations done in a safe and effective way. So my presentation to you will be about Thanksgiving and mental health. Thank you, audience, for being here. Now, let's look at Thanksgiving reflections. Now, I want you to take a moment right now to visualize in your mind's eye the first American Thanksgiving feast, which our Pilgrim forefathers shared with their Native American neighbors on the shores of the Massachusetts Bay in the fall of 1621. That's a little bit of history. Now, as you may remember, the Pilgrims who landed on Cape Cod in the summer of 1620, they were an English religious sect, and they were fleeing persecution from the Church of England. All they wanted to do was to separate themselves from the Church of England and their rules and their laws. And they were called separatists because of that. And they just wanted to choose their own ministers and to choose their own churches and run them democratically. Now, on November the 20th, 1620, when the little ship, the Mayflower, reached landfall at Cape Cod, there were 100 men, women, and children. And they were a little disappointed because the ship landed north of their more temperate zone, which was their Virginia destination. But they kind of settled with it, and it made themselves comfortable. But they got up like pretty soon, and they decided to sail again because that's not where they wanted to go. And where did they go? They went to the richly forested and protected mainland in Plymouth, where they hoped they would find food and safe harbor just to ride out the winter storms. However, the next few months proved a nightmare for these pilgrims. They had little to eat. They survived on things like salt beef, as we know it, and hardtack, those crackers. And they developed scurvy, which was another disease, because there were no fruits and vegetables available for them. And half of the fleet fell sick. And nearly half of them died in that expedition. Horrible deaths before the spring. Now, the historical records clearly showed that the Native Americans who generously shared their food with the pilgrims that winter, if the Native Americans were not so generous, the other half of the fleet would have been wiped out. And the Native Americans also showed them to plant, because you feed a man today, you feed him for one day. But if you teach him to fish, you teach him to eat for life. So they showed them to cultivate the land. And they showed them how to plant their native corn. And they were so generous that at the end of, by the end of late November, their harvest was bountiful. They planted, they worked hard, and they had a bountiful harvest. And late November, they were all gathered in. They were happy now that they have found out how to plant and how to get food. They were all happy now. Now, the pilgrims give thanks. Now, in spite of all the hardships they endured, in spite of their losing half of their fleet, in spite of the deaths and the cold and the traveling and the winds, they decided that they would give thanks. They were at their bottomless grief, but they decided, yes, we will give thanks. And the surviving pilgrims marked their good fortune and gave thanks to God. What did they do? They put on a 3-day celebration of food and festivities for themselves. And they invited their Native American friends to come and share with them. And that's how the Native Americans and the American culture celebrate Thanksgiving, by inviting friends. Now, let's look at Thanksgiving in 2020. Now, this Thanksgiving, which is a couple of weeks away from now, while I will have you remember the pilgrims, those brave survivors at Plymouth, who, although initially they were in much sorrow and grief, they laid out a generous feast of gratitude and caring and celebrating the blessings of God. I want to turn your attention to the past months of this year, 2020. More specifically, I point you to the global experience into which all of us were plunged through no fault of ours. We all can identify with someone who has succumbed to this deadly pandemic, or who has been knocked down and is still fighting for life, or who is numbered among the millions who have recovered from their attack of this enemy on humanity here. Many people are losing hope. They're falling apart. They're trying as hard as they can to maintain their sanity. Think about it. Some of them have lost their jobs. They have lost loved ones. They have lost their homes. And how much more can a human being take? So this Thanksgiving, while I will have you remember the pilgrims, those brave survivors, I will still encourage you to turn your attention to us here. So here are some questions to think about. And if you can answer those questions in your mind, that's fine enough. You don't have to shout them out. But if you can shout them out, that's good also. Is there room for celebration? Can we sing the Lord's song in the midst of a pandemic? Has COVID won this battle? Is all lost? Can we celebrate? We are in the season of Thanksgiving, for God's sake. So the question before us today remains: how can we celebrate Thanksgiving in 2020? Let's look at it. Staying healthy. Now, talk about your feelings. Talk about your feelings. This can help you to stay in good health and deal with times when you're troubled. talking about your feelings is just a simple part of you, the person, taking charge of your mental health. Just being listened to from someone can help you to feel supported and less alone. Keep active. This helps to release the chemicals that trigger hormones in your brain, like endorphins, because endorphins are the hormones that make us feel happy. So when you keep active, your body releases these hormones and into your brain, and you feel good. Regular exercise can boost your self-esteem and help you concentrate and makes you feel better and improve your self-esteem. Distraction can also help in the healing process. Then eat well. We just had some very delicious, healthy food just now. Because there's a strong link between what we eat and how we feel. Caffeine and sugar have immediate effect, but we are fully educated and we know that that effect does not produce any positive results. It's just a quick high and it has nothing else, and it takes you back down. So, a diet that is good for your physical health is also good for your mental health. Lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, cereals, nuts, dairy products, oily fish, flaxseed, and plenty of water to keep your body hydrated and healthy. Then keep in touch. Strong, positive, supportive ties can help you deal with the stresses of life. Give a call to someone. Drop a note. Just slip it under their door. Text in a chat to let someone know that you are relevant, you're still there. Share a good memory. Have a good laugh with someone. And always, always keep your communication link open. Have your phone charged and just be ready to accept a call. Ask for help when we need to. None of us are superhuman. We all get overwhelmed when things happen. So you can do no harm if you call on a friend or a family and you let them know that you're in need of some help. You feel sad, you feel depressed, you feel anxious. I would just like someone to talk with. Remember that the local services, they're out there to support us, and we have to make full use of them. Then do something we are good at and enjoy it. Some of us are good at cooking. Some of us are good at cleaning. You just get down to a nice cleaning. Some of us are good at rearranging our homes, decorating. Whatever you can do to make you feel good, just get into it and get it done. Then accept who you are. Because we are living in a society today where our young people are focused on the television and their role models are out there. And some of us have little control over how they see themselves, their self-image, compared to that person whom they adore and idolize. So teachers, even yourself as a grown person, teach your kids, the people around you, accept who you are. We are all different. And we should accept that we are unique, and do not try to be someone else. That's putting too much of pressure on the human body. So good self-esteem helps us to cope mentally when life takes a difficult turn for us. Take time to uplift others, because the way to be happy is simply to make others happy. And there's a little song that says, if you can help someone as you pass along, then your living will not be in vain. Then trust in divine power. There's only so much that we can do, but we have to leave the rest to the being in charge. Communicate with God more than we have ever done before. If we stay on our knees for 2 minutes, ask the Lord to help us to stay 4 minutes instead of 2. And this helps. He hears you. So you just have to be more persistent and stay a little longer. We can certainly celebrate Thanksgiving if we're mentally stable. So let us pay attention to our mental health as we contemplate celebrating Thanksgiving 2020. Because even in the midst of this pandemic, when we were about to peak to flatten the curve, all is not lost because God is still in control. So let's look at the dinner table. It is the afternoon of Thanksgiving. The turkey is hot out of the oven. Potatoes are mashed. The table is set. Family and friends have come over. Grandma is surrounded by her loved ones, and yet she seems empty inside. I can't wait to eat. I saved my appetite, so I know I have enough space to consume a lot of food this year. But I saw Grandma's favorite meal is on the menu. Food. But how can I celebrate when a once joyous time was filled with laughter, good food, and the presence of 5 individuals have turned into a nightmare of pain and loneliness? There are missing chairs at the table, and I don't know how to pretend that it is not so. They are missing because of COVID. How can I sit here to celebrate? Hi, everyone. Do you know that since Grandpa passed, I have been trying to learn his favorite verse? And that verse is 1 Peter 5:7. Casting all your cares upon him, for he careth about you. But it's getting late, and I'm hungry. I wonder where is Aunt Rebecca? Aunt Rebecca, here comes Aunt Rebecca, and she's wearing Grandpa's shirt. Aunt Rebecca came in smiling and singing with bags of goodies. Aunt Rebecca starts to share her goodies, and she went to Grandma, and she gave Grandma a hug. Grandma said, I am not lonely anymore. I saw Grandpa's shirt. And Grandma joins in the singing. Aunt Rebecca said, let's hold hands and let's pray. And dinner was served. Everyone was happy and everyone enjoyed the Thanksgiving dinner. So, my dear friends, remember that beneath your very real grief and losses, life's holy heartbeat can still be heard. No matter what has been taken from you, there is still life amidst the many thorns of living, where life can be vibrantly, bravely, and purposefully lived. There is always, always joy to be discovered, beauty to be seen, laughter to be heard, service to be accomplished, satisfaction to be found, and love to be shared. So let us keep the memories of our loved ones alive this Thanksgiving as we celebrate the blessings of Almighty God. And I would like to say to you, happy Thanksgiving to one and all. But before I wrap up this Thanksgiving presentation, I would like to generously share with you some resources that can help you to decrease your stress and reduce anxiety symptoms. Because our bodies are very sensitive. Our bodies know where it hurt. And you know how you feel when you're not yourself. So let's look at the resources. The first one is an app by the name of 7 Cups. Now, this is a multi-featured app, and it offers like anonymous emotional support. And it connects people with their experiences, especially when you feel sad and emotionally drained. And it's used by trained listeners. So you can include this resource in your bag of resources in your toolkit to use when you feel down and you're not feeling well. So you can download 7 Cups, try it for free, and see how you like it. Okay? Then the next resource is Happify. This is another app, but this app offers evidence-based games like tools to improve your emotional well-being. Because who says that working on your mental health can't be fun? It can be fun with some fun games. So try Happify, try it for free, see if you like it. It just focuses on decreasing your stress and anxiety level. Sometimes we need something to make us calm and relaxed so that we can function from day to day. And it also improves your mood. Because remember that our mood fluctuates according to the minute and the hour of the day that we are experiencing. Then the last app is Headspace. Now this is a popular one, Headspace. It's basically guided meditation, and for people who like yoga and like deep breathing, you can use Headspace to help you calm down and do some deep breathing, because fresh air, when it circulates into your brain, helps you to function much better. So try Headspace. It will reduce stress, improve sleep, which is very important because sleep helps us to regenerate our hormones and our cells so that we can function better the next day and makes us happy. Now, we are in the midst of a pandemic, folks, and we should not allow this to make us feel that this is the end of the world. It's not. It's just time for us to sit and be still and know that God is in charge. We have been running on the fast lane all our lives, and now for us to sit, it's like we can't. We don't know how to do it. But let's ask God to sit, and we don't want to enjoy COVID, but whatever time you have at home, just focus, breathe, relax. Self-care. Self-care is so important. So engage in self-care and take care of yourself. Because if there's one thing we have learned from this pandemic, is that our mental health is precious, very precious. And we have to do all that we can to preserve it. Because when we've lost it, we've lost it. Okay? So thank you folks for listening. And I wish everyone a happy, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for the presentation this morning. Dr.
You're welcome.
Courts. And thanks also to Dr. Nicholas. We are pleased to have received information that we indeed tend to put to practice. My only regret is the attendance. I want to, I would wish that more of our members was there to receive this kind of information. I trust that it will get better. I thank you for your courage, for wanting to go along even in spite of the attendance. I just want to thank also the sister in the kitchen. Her name is Miss Janetta for the food presentation. I find it was a wonderful effort, and I did enjoy everything. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Let us pray. Loving Father, we thank you for your loving kindness, your tender mercies, for your provision for us, that we may grow in grace, becoming wise unto salvation. We pray, dear Lord, that you would strengthen your servants as they go along educating, so that men and women will become better fitted for heaven. Help us, dear Father, by the power of your Holy Spirit to stay hungry for knowledge that will help us become more like you. We cherish the idea that the whole intent is that we may learn to live like angels because we are expected to live among them. Bless us with every knowledge. Give us the know-how. Bless us, bless our children, and help us, dear Father, to become more dedicated. We want to take a pledge now to turn our lives over completely to you in complete surrender. You said if we do, the Holy Spirit will so fill us with power that we not only will be saved, but we will be saving others as we go, preaching your word and witnessing to your name on glory. Bless us, we pray, and keep us, dear Father, in your service, is our asking in Jesus' worthy name. Amen. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Contact information, emails, send that over to you guys. In case you guys need it, you can reach out to me, 267-304-0225, or you can contact Pastor. Thank you for joining us.